Hello again, everyone. This is the Metaphysical Mikto Griffin Red. And the name of this video will be called Toxic Elders. This is definitely a subject that needs to be addressed in the Black community because for far too long, we were told, not to talk back to grown folks and, as a child and, told to respect your elders, even though you past grown, you still have to let this miserable ass nigga bitch or some asshole Negro man, step and talk to you and down to you any kind of way. And that's bullshit. And I'm gonna share with you a couple of stories that I've had in my experience or whatever, dealing with so-called toxic elders or whatever. And I got a lot of articles that I've read online. I've gone through them and everything, and a lot of them are very, very informative, and they really resonated with me. And I'll be sharing them with you in the description box, so you can read them, as well as some videos. If you're like me, a Gen Xer or whatever, and obviously your parents were the baby boomers or whatever, pretty much I'm just gonna come out and say that a lot of us were raised like robots. We pretty much were raised in this sense to be the property of our parents. And I've done tons of read tons of articles as well, and it said that the baby boomer and the silent generation were two of the most narcissistic generations of all times. And I believe that. I wholeheartedly believe that. Most of the problems that I had with these so-called elders or whatever were baby boomer Keishas, Black females. It wasn't nothing for them to get smart and talk, and talk down to you. And then you had these ignorant ass nigga ass baby boomer men who feel they can overtalk you and talk down on you, because I'm the elder. Or they'll get up in your face, I don't want to hear that. You gonna listen to me and calm down and shut up and all this other crap. And we put up with a lot of that shit even in our, as we became adults. You were always told, no matter how big of a bitch or how big of an asshole this person was, you had to respect them. I'm telling you now, fuck that. We still have a lot of deprogramming to do, especially, the SYSBM, the MGTOWs and everything like that. We've been told and fed and spoon-fed a lot of bullshit when we were young. And I'm going to tell you this, to you current Generation Xers, you millennials, and you upcoming young guys, you do not respect anybody who mistreats you. I repeat that again. Do not respect anybody who mistreats you. I don't give a fuck if they 90-something years old. If they're an asshole, if they're a fucking evil person, you don't respect them. Matter of fact, you get the hell away from them. I mean, how many of you were told, coming up, if you cry because, your parents said something or did something to you, whatever, shut up before I give you something to cry about? How often were you told that? How often were you spanked or beaten because, you had a legitimate question about something, or, you told something, told your parents something or whatever, and kind of find out it was correct and you got beat for it? How often did that happen? Quite often, didn't it? The point I'm trying to make here is, we were not raised correctly. And I did watched some videos, and a lot of the baby boomers were raised to be robots. They weren't allowed to have, express how they felt or anything like that. It was all about, they wanted to be tyrants and authoritarians. And to be honest with you, the baby boomers took the pot. They sucked the money pot dry. This is why we are all struggling now. They had it the best. The baby boomers had the best economy. They was able to pay off their houses and everything. And we got fucked. They'll tell you need to work harder. No, everything was not the way, it's not the way it was when your fucking ass was young. It's not. I recall being a kid, and my mother had this cousin, and she was just a real abrasive woman. I couldn't stand her. She was short, dumpy, was bald headed, was real manly and everything like that. And every time she would come over, she would be cussing like a sailor. I guess my mother had told her that she was that I was talking to some white girl back in there. And then she's gonna say, "Well, yeah, you better leave them white bitches alone." How many of you black men heard that shit growing up, where you had a white girl who actually genuinely liked you, and you had this old, a bitch like her, like who I'm describing, advising your mother not to let you date them or whatever. And I remember there was this one time I was about 17. And back when I was in high school, like I said, I had my own identity. So I wore they call them the pump weight. They used to call them the pump weights, the finger waves, like how the Temptations used to wear their hair. They would wave it up, and then they had like the little pompadour or whatever. Yeah, I had my own style back then. But anyway, my mother, as I told you before, I had a narcissistic mother, and how she would just cuss, especially like in my junior and senior year, she would just cuss me out for no reason. And I had siblings too, and we would wake up in the morning and she would just cuss us all out and send us off to school. What kind of shit is that? But anyway, she was like, I remember I had a lady that was doing my hair, and I liked the way she did it. She was cool. So my mother was bitching and complaining about how I need to let her friend do my hair because her friend been doing hair and everything, and literally accused me of fucking my hairstylist. That one, my hairstylist was older than me, and she was married. So how could I have fucked her? But then again, I didn't even see her like that. It was a business thing. She was cool. But anyway, so I'm like, to shut my mother up, I went to her friend or whatever, and she didn't, she started waving my hand and everything, and then she told me she couldn't finish it. So of course I'm disappointed and everything like that. I'm like, damn, I could have just went to my fucking regular styles, got the way I did it, and had it the way as got my hair done the way I wanted, and would have been happy with that. But no, but my mother, she had to be a bitch and had to just a bitch about something or whatever. So there was this one of my mother's other friends there. I guess I think it was her shop or something like that or whatever. And she was a total nigga cunt. I never liked her. So anyway, my mother's friend was like, "Hey, I can't finish your hair. I had to do it tomorrow or something like that." And so I'm me being a teenager with everything, it's like you had me come all the way here for nothing. So the friend, my mother's friend left or whatever, and then we gonna call the nigga cunt, her name, we just gonna call her GK. Anyway, GK, she was just a total bitch or whatever, and just would just find some way to antagonize me for no reason, and would play it off like I'm just playing with you. Mind you, you need to stop being so damn serious. So anyway, so when my mother's friend left or whatever, she saw that I was GK saw that I was I guess disappointed or whatever, and she's like, "Well, what's your problem?" And she's like, "Well, come on over here. I'll lift your waves up or whatever." So anyway, she sat me down in the chair and took the pick and just snatched and pulled the wave pattern out of my hair, looking all fucking stupid. And she deliberately did that shit just to be a fucking nigga cunt. And fuck you, GK. So I went home and showed my mother, and she was like, she said something to where, well, she, GK is a real bitch. She didn't have to do you like that. So anyway, to make a long story short, my My mother's friend actually redid my hair or whatever, but that was the last time I dealt with them. And it was completely unnecessary because I had a narcissistic motherfucking mother who decided just to bitch and cuss me out for no fucking reason. How many of you black men out there got relatives and aunties and, you know, new mothers, and had mothers that knew, and had mothers with friends that were bitches like this? And I'm gonna go on and tell you, there's I have an aunt. There's people. How many of y'all got people in the family, in your family or whatever? You know, you got an aunt that's crazy as hell, or you know, just a total bitch or whatever. But the uncle, let's just say we just gonna call him Uncle James. Okay, Uncle James. And Uncle James is that cool uncle. All the kids like him or whatever, but he's married to a bitch, and we gonna just call her Aunt Ethel. Nobody likes her. You know, she nasty, she mean to the kids and everything. And how many times you were told, that's your auntie, you still got to respect her. Black people are fucking retarded. We have a lot of bullshit and a lot of programming and a lot of so-called black traditions that need to go in the fucking trash can. And respecting your fucking elders when they're fucking total bitches and assholes is one of them. That shit got to go. That shit has got to go. And you got old ass motherfucking content creators on fucking YouTube who are hating and you know, and pissing and shitting on black men on Passport Bros and stuff like that. You know why? Because your fucking ass ain't, you know, your fucking ass can't do it. And you know what? I got a theory. Most of these Negroes complaining about black men going and traveling overseas and just traveling in general are jealous because they can't do it. Most of these people ain't left the fucking block they was on. But they want the respect of a so-called, you know, that you're just some fucking elder or whatever. So now I'm going to read to you some of the these articles I read online. Okay, this is from parents.com. It says, "No, I'm not forcing my daughter to just respect her elders," by Caroline Chiricella. The common advice to respect your elders isn't just outdated. It can also teach kids to accept rude behavior and create weak boundaries. Here's what experts say parents should teach their children instead. Recently, my 4-year-old daughter was blatantly disrespected by someone 80 years her senior. The person made an insulting comment about my daughter's appearance. I fired back because that's how I was raised. My great-grandfather, an Italian immigrant in his 60s at the time, told my mom, "You don't respect people just because of their age. You respect them because they've earned your respect." It was something my mother passed on to me and has remained with me since. But a person who witnessed the incident mentioned to me that my daughter should respect the elder person simply because of the fact they are well older. It got me thinking how common it is to teach our children to just respect elders and how harmful that can be. It's an outdated practice that could force a young person to condone behavior that shouldn't be tolerated. Some elders may believe that because they are older, they can behave in any manner without any consequences, says Jacqueline Galata, PhD, a licensed mental health counselor in private practice in Orlando, Florida. "I don't want to raise my daughter to accept negative behavior from someone just because they are older than she is. I want her to be kind and treat others how she wants to be treated. Of course, but I want her to know that age alone does not define who deserves respect." That was a snippet from that. Okay. And this article is from the N Club. It says, and especially it's made for black folks. It says, "Respecting our elders is draining for many black families." Posted on March 22nd, 2021 by Danae. Respect your elders. How many times have we heard this? I've heard this more times than I would have liked. Enough for it to be embedded deep within my adult brain. I can feel my ancestors get ready to slap me in the face even if I think about stepping out of line. Growing up in my household, talking back was the ultimate sign of disrespect. The problem was, I didn't know what that phrase meant. My parents viewed disobedience as replying back, "Huh? what, or yeah. It is yes, not yeah. My father would correct me, but I tended to forget. My forgetfulness got me a tongue lashing that later evolved into a tongue lecture. As I got older, I learned the concept that children are to be seen and not heard. This was difficult for a kid like me. Understanding the black family dynamic. The wild child I was called by my mother's siblings and older cousins. I couldn't sit still. I couldn't stop singing. I always laughed uncontrollably at the table and always acted out. To make things more complex at school, I always had good behavior, but at home, I couldn't help but act flippant or crazy. As a preteen, my suppressed emotions were ready to explode. My frustrations and irritation would warrant a big smack across my face. It seemed like every Sunday, I had a one-way ticket for a beatdown. There were times I deserved it, but other times I didn't know what I did wrong. Half the time, my laughter and joke making would seem disrespectful. After I would get reprimanded and I stopped caring to be obedient. I thought disrespecting elder at all costs only pertained to my family. It was indeed a cultural notion. Everybody and their family believed this and enforced this concept, no matter how egregious the adults behave. I still tense whenever I hear a parent cursing, screaming at their children, or even worse, striking their child. If someone caught a child not respecting an adult man, that child was in trouble. Keep in mind that this adult could be acting as a pure monster, and the only thing the others were worried about was checking the child. I often had thought, if a child was the most precious gift a God could give you, shouldn't we be protecting children at all costs? Respecting your children, your elders, because Scripture says. In my heart, I knew that parents were more responsible than they let on. Some adults had God on their side and we had nobody. The Bible scripture that we hang on to about respecting elders goes something like this. Honor your parents so that your days may be long. This simple yet effective Bible verse attached to the very fiber of my bones put the fear of God in me. As a child, I interpreted that adults were always right and children were always wrong. I asked God many times, do I deserve a shorter life because I disagree with my parents? Am I not allowed to explain myself or defend myself? What did my personality bother adults so much? What was wrong with me? That was my major dilemma growing up, and I failed every time. My middle name was a whooping. My mouth was slick and I was too grown. It wasn't until I got older that I disagreed with the respect your elders at all costs, no matter what. I understood that children needed boundaries, but I also knew that children needed to set their own boundaries as well. Respect is earned, not given. Children won't be children forever. They are growing humans who model the behaviors of their parents or guardians. If you see a wild child more times than not, they have a wild parent or an unstable parent. It took me over 20 years to understand I modeled my parents' behavior. Oftentimes, we misplace the blame and throw it on children. I even got angry with my niece and nephew for no apparent reason. Children are sponges. They model their behavior after those they see and come in contact with. My niece saying bruh because she heard it from me or my sister. I learned that I set the tone and how children around me responded towards my guidance and correction. It is the parent that I have to teach respect, accountability, and responsibility. It's the parent's job to walk the walk instead of talking. Back in the day, children, even adult children, wouldn't dare talk about the disrespect they received from their parents. In the black community, nobody would dare come against their parents no matter what up until recently. And that's because that matriarchal bullshit ass programming. Celebrities' children who have challenged the respect notation. Last April, Selah Marley, now age 22, daughter of music icon Lauryn Hill, went on Instagram Live to talk about her traumatic childhood and how her mother's discipline methods were indeed traumatic. If you were someone who didn't watch Selah on Instagram Live, you would think Selah was exposing her mother, and you would think that Lauryn Hill was a bad mom. Neither is the case. What Selah was doing was giving attention, a much-needed voice to discuss child-to-parent dynamic in the black community, which never ever gets discussed, and how this type of parenting is common, but also destructive. Although Selah was lifting the veil, you could tell her respect and love for her mother was still there. It's a shame that we don't discuss how the parent to childhood trauma gets transferred and how discipline measures, parenting, and lifestyles can give children PTSD and long-lasting mother and father wounds. According to First Star, a nonprofit organization that works and patterns with child welfare agencies, black children have the highest abuse rates. Somehow this cycle continues to keep going. Our discipline methods need to be re-examined. We must start and continue these conversations to put an end to this trauma. Defending parental behaviors that are toxic. Another famous person in music, Kirk Franklin, was involved with controversy with one of his children. Kerrion Franklin, age 33, like Cilla Marley, went to Instagram, but instead of talking about his dealing with his father, he leaked a profanity-laced phone call from his father on his page. Many people took to defending Kirk Franklin, including radio personality Ricky Smiley and TV personality comedian Steve Harvey, who's the biggest simp on the planet, in YouTube support of Kirk Franklin. The comment section in their YouTube video showed that many people felt Kerrion was expecting, was in the felt that showed that many people felt Kerrion was in the wrong and disrespected for exposing and bashing his father. But knowing what I know about parent-to-child dynamic and respecting elders at all costs, I can't help to nuance this family feud drama. Kerrion should not have leaked the phone call, but Kirk Franklin, the parent of this in this situation, knows better. And man of his status knows better. Kirk Franklin should have never called his son to threaten him and curse him out. My final thoughts. A real discussion is needed in our community about toxic parenting styles. As black folks, we cannot cling to this parenting style and we no longer can defend it. Something has to change and we need to address this public and this troubling parent-to-childhood dynamic that is drowning our community. We can't keep protecting elders no matter what. This cause of this respecting narrative is harming our families. If our parents could speak out about the pain they endured as children, we could begin healing, learning new ways to parent can allow children to finally and truly respect their elders. And that's the key right there. You've always been told that you have to, you got to respect them and respect your elders and stuff like that. And I think this is why, the main reason why I've decided I really don't, I really don't deal with black folks too much. Because they still got that slave ass mentality, and it's like they just don't want to let it go. I mean, goddamn. And I'm gonna read this too. It says, why forcing kids to just respect their elders can backfire. Telling children to respect someone for the mere fact that they are older can teach them their feelings do not matter and make them lower their standards to expect from what to expect from other people. You want to teach your children to be kind to everyone, but if someone is not kind to you, you shouldn't feel you have to overstep your own healthy boundaries just because they're older. Pushing children to devalue themselves and forcing them to be respectful can teach kids it's okay to let someone treat you poorly. I know, and I let this happen to me. I let teachers abuse me, and I let, babysitters abuse me, and my mother wouldn't have done nothing. My mother didn't do anything. I remember telling my mother about the abuse that I suffered from the teachers and the babysitter who was her best friend, and she never confronted her about it. Never confronted her about the shit that she did to me. And it says, Dr. Hornstein agrees, adding, it can make them feel belittled, unimportant, or even question their own reality. It can also be dangerous. For example, says Dr. Hornstein, if there's a family friend or relative who practices inappropriate touch, how are we helping our kids know when to stand up to adults? Instead, parents should protect kids from these adults who are abusive and not ask them to be respectful to them. We don't want kids growing up like they did something wrong by not wanting to kiss a person who is scaring them or mean to them. You hear that, nigga community? I have a cousin who's about 4 years, who's exactly 4 years older than me. And I remember, he told me stories about how his mother was. And, his mother is the mean out of the family. You know what I mean? She feels that because she's the oldest sibling, that she could talk down to everybody, and you're not supposed to say nothing back to her. And that's the issue I have, because, as you know, a lot of these elders, they exploit that You know, respect your elders. And a lot of them are just evil bitches and evil assholes. You know, and he had explained to me how, you know, he was on a sports team and how he was on a wrestling team in school, and how his mother, you know, refused to buy him gear, didn't even come to his games or anything like that. So now he has 2 sons. I think one of them's either 6 or 7, and he just had a little baby. I think he's a few months old now, and congratulations to him. And I told him over the phone, I explained to him, do not raise your child the way my mother and your mother raised us. If you do that, you'll have some healthy children. So the point is of this whole video is respect those who treat you well. Respect those who respect you. We have got to stop respecting people, these toxic ass motherfuckers in our so-called community. Call their ass out. Because I'm at that point now, I will cuss their ass out now. Fuck that respect. Respect those who respect you. It's the end of the video.